Oh dear, Maths Legends. Today we are looking at classifying angles, and I would hope that you would have some idea if you are going to be classifying angles depending on what they look like and their size. We're going to be able to name them, and we're going to be able to recognise them. All right, let's have a quick look and see the two things that we're going to need to do to be successful today. The first one that we need to be able to do is we need to be able to look at a different type of angle, so whether it's an acute or right or obtuse, and know how many degrees of potentially that it could be. So most of these different ones, like acute, right, obtuse, straight, reflex, and a revolution, actually have to lie between certain sizes to be classified as those angles. The second one is we need to be able to then identify whether an angle is a certain size. We can look at it and go, that is definitely an acute angle, that is a right angle. And we're going to give some little tricks along the way to be able to do that. Okay, let's have a look at these 6 angles to start with. We're going to have a look at these as our main ones. And the first one there, you can see is quite a small angle. Now, the way that I like to do this is I like to think of it as being small, and a lot of people think things are small are cute. So if it is small and it is cute, then we would call this angle an acute angle. Now, an acute angle must be, there we go, must be more than 0 degrees, but no more than 89 degrees. Because when we get higher than 89 degrees, you'll notice a 90-degree angle. Oh, there we go. A 90-degree angle is our next one. Our 90-degree angle looks a little bit like an L shape. Now, this is what we would call a right angle. Now, a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. And you would have seen a right angle. Now, a right angle is what forms squares and rectangles. We see a lot of right angles in all everyday life, especially when builders are creating buildings or constructing furniture. You will see right angles. The next one here is an angle that goes between 91 degrees and 179 degrees. Now this one here is quite a big one. It's got a bit of a belly. Can you see a little bit of a belly there? And it looks like this little part here, and I'm going to highlight it. Hang on, let me get my little highlighter, my highlighter here. Can you see my angle in the middle here? It looks a bit like it's got a bit of a belly. Now, we're going to call it, because I know that when you've got a bit of a belly, some people might say it's a bit obese. We're going to call it obtuse. Now, it sounds a little bit similar, and that's how I remember an obtuse angle. This one is the easiest angle of them all. You will see that the two lines that come and form the arc are dead straight. It is called a straight angle. Now, a straight angle, like a right angle, can only be one measurement, and that is 180 degrees. I don't know why my straight isn't working. There it is, properly. My next angle goes all the way around and nearly touches the other side. So anything past a straight angle, but not all the way around, we're going to call this a reflex angle. And I think of it's 181 degrees. I'll come back to what I think about, all the way through to 359 degrees. I always think about those kung fu and those movies, action movies, where, you know, somebody walks up to somebody and they put their hand on them and they're going to start a fight with them, and they whip around and they're like, wah, you know, and they whack them. I always think that's their reflexes kicking in, and they have to turn around real quickly. So I always think of this angle being that that's to turn nearly all the way round, and that's how I remember reflex angles. The last one there is what we would call a revolution. Now, a revolution is where you make one full turn, and you can see that it's started, it's gone all the way around, it's ended. You can also see that it's a revolution because the arc that it forms with the angle completes an entire circle. Now, a revolution can only be like a right angle and a straight angle, can only be one measurement, and that is 360 degrees. So these are the 6 different types of angles that we need to be able to classify. So you've got an acute angle, very small, between 0 and 89 degrees. That means being starting and being nearly a right angle. We have a right angle, that's the L shape, exactly 90 degrees. Our obtuse angle, more than 90 degrees, less than 180 degrees. Our straight angle, a straight line. Reflex angle, like I said, a wah, and we're going to whack them. We're going to go all the way around, and then our revolution makes one full turn. Here's my examples of those. You can see how that we've already gone through all these. I would suggest, gentlemen, to screenshot this and keep it somewhere safe. Here is what you're going to need to know when you go on to the next slide. So when you go on to the next slide and you do the you do section, I want you to come back and use this to help you to classify them if you are struggling. Let's go on to the you do and let's see if you can have a go. Okay, 3 different questions. The first one's asking you which of these is an acute angle. So you have to identify which one's an acute. Now remember, acute being small, that might help you. Which is the following is a reflex angle. You remember that one. You always remember that sound. That'll help you. And the last one there is a straight angle. Now at no stage here is it asking you for how many degrees it is, but you obviously knowing that a straight line is 180 degrees, that a reflex angle is more than that an acute angle is less than 90 degrees, is going to help you to be able to classify and identify them. Have a go now, stop the video, and I'm going to come back and circle the correct answers. Righto, let's have a quick look and do some circling. I'm going to change my colour to a red, just for something different. Our first one here, I know A, maybe, B, absolutely not. That is a right angle. C, it's obtuse, got that little belly. This one's a reflex, it goes all the way around. So the only one that I've got there that I know is A, which is my acute angle. The second one there, which is a reflex angle, you remember? What? Where it goes all the way around. Now this one here looks like it, but if you look at the arc, it just makes a little belly. That's our obtuse angle. Here's my straight angle. This one goes all the way around. You can see here, if I draw over the line, it goes up and around. It must be that one because the last one's a little one, and we know that's an acute angle. On my last one here, number 3, we're looking at a straight angle. And this is the easiest one because it's one straight line. Here is the only one that makes a straight line. They're just trying to trick you up by turning the angle of it. Now, remember, 6 different kinds of angles: acute, right, obtuse, straight, reflex, and finishing off with our full revolution. If you know those 6 angles, you can identify them. You are winning. See you in class.